Goth is one of the most misunderstood subcultures in this day and age, and I think we need to talk about that. So, would you care to join me in figuring out what is goth? Lovely. So first we have to start off with, where does the term goth originate? Well, we have to start with the 1st century AD with the Germanic tribe known as the Goths. Basically, they were just known for harassing the Roman Empire until eventually they separated into 2 separate tribes, the Visigoths and the Ostrogoths, who also continued to harass the Roman Empire. But eventually they kind of like disappeared into different cultures. And during that disappearance is when we get the transition period between classical antiquity and the Middle Ages. Now, during the Middle Ages, we also get my personal favorite architecture style, Gothic. At the time, they were not calling it goth or Gothic because goth was synonymous with barbaric, but eventually it got that name. And at the time, it was completely characterized by high pointed arches, large stained glass windows, and by the time the 16th century rolled around, which was pretty much the end of this era, we get a lot, and I mean a lot, of intricate details and decorations. Mostly, a lot of people think of the Cologne Cathedral in Germany whenever they hear Gothic architecture, which is completely fair because that is one of the most beautiful pieces of architecture I've ever seen. Now, a couple centuries after the, disappearance of Gothic architecture, we get Gothic literature. Now, Gothic literature, most people know Dracula, most people know Frankenstein, most people know a lot of works by Edgar Allan Poe, which is, makes sense because they're very famous. Now, from this era, we Goths get a lot of fashion inspiration, specifically the Victorian era, with a lot of corsets, lace, velvet, and a lot of the time people say pale skin. People often will say you need pale skin to be goth, which is so incorrect and so racist. I don't know why they say that. Anywho, but not including specific Victorian era influence for fashion, we also have a lot of piercings, so that would work out well. A lot of leather and just a lot of jewelry, especially if all of this is not very normal, like facial piercings. A lot of people will see as goth or alternative because it most of the time is. And a lot of this got very, very popular during the 80s when the music-based subculture goth became a thing, which mostly formed because of the post-punk scene, because people just wanted something a little different, which is where goth came from. Now, we have Gothic rock, which a lot of people know, like The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, Joy Division, Bauhaus, or the Sisters of Mercy, which are very popular, so it makes sense. Now, if you listen to goth music and you agree with goth political ideologies, you are goth, okay? That is what goth is. In this day and age, goth is a music-based subculture where you listen to the music, you agree with the political ideologies, that considers you goth, okay? A lot of people think that you specifically need to dress that way. Now, I know I have mentioned a lot of fashion in this, but fashion is not necessary for being goth. You can be gothic, which is the fashion part of it, but if you simply only dress in dark clothes but you don't listen to the music, not goth. If you only listen to the music and you don't dress in dark clothes, you're goth. However, you cannot be conservative and goth because you cannot be conservative and alternative just in general. So mostly throughout history, goths have rejected the mainstream in pretty much any way that they can, and I think that's beautiful.